Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for the Cozy Craftalong mini-series. My name is Leah, and I am your moderator. Craftsy, National Quilter Circle, National Sewing Circle, and Creative Crochet Corner have all teamed up to provide a full week of live demonstrations and a bundle of 5 free winter-themed patterns. Make sure you download your free patterns by clicking the link in the description, and then once you get to the patterns page, you want to click the picture of the project it is you would like to download. Once you enter your email, you will immediately receive your free download. Now, every day this week, we've got a new instructor with us streaming live as we quilt, sew, crochet, and bake, and you will get step-by-step demonstrations of all of these festive winter projects. Now, if you have any questions at all during the event, please leave your comments in the blue chat box below or in the chat on Facebook or YouTube. I'll keep an eye on all of those questions and comments during the event. Anything that's project specific, we'll get to when there's a pause in the action. Of course, keep your general questions coming as well. We do usually have time to get in at least 1 or 2 of those at the end of the project. And I'm very excited for today's project. If you were with us yesterday, we were in the kitchen. We're going to come out of the kitchen into the craft room with Emily Steffen today. Emily, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to have you start off by introducing yourself and then also a little bit about the project that we're going to be working on today.
I'm super happy to be here. My name is Emily Steffen, and today we are making this super cute no-sew mistletoe, and it even rhymes, no-sew mistletoe. I'm a huge proponent. My family and I love traditions and love kind of like bringing out those decorations and Christmas things around the holidays that you can remember and love and that you've made. Everything you've made around the holidays just feels a little extra special. So I'm excited to share with you today. We're using felt, which is one of my most favorite materials because it's super colorful, it's really versatile, and it's really easy. It's really kid-friendly too. So your kiddos can totally join in on this project.
Awesome. Well, we do have a comment in already. Dawn's very excited for this project. It's cute and affordable, so thank you so much. Thank you, Dawn. Hello and welcome. And again, like I said at the beginning, if you missed it, drop your questions in for Emily. She's going to lead us through this project step by step. If there's a pause in the action, we'll check for questions. But other than that, there's nothing else for me, Emily. I think it's time to get crafting.
Awesome. Dawn, I love that you said that this is a affordable project because if you are a crafter or a sewer or have fabric in your craft room or your studio, you will only need little bits of these fabric pieces, so you can totally bust those scraps out, which is even more amazing. And let me just say that I would say that this pattern for sure can be used in any way you want. Like for instance, if you're not sure that you want to use felt, you totally could use a different fabric and just somehow maybe put some no fray glue on the edges of your fabric, or maybe you're gonna sew it. But this pattern is maybe just to get you started. So if you feel inspired to use something else, pop that in the comments because I love to hear people's interpretations of the things that I make because we all make things that are a little bit more special to us or that's more unique to us. So share away, I love it. But the link to the pattern is in the description. And all you're gonna need is the pattern pieces to make these. And we were talking a little bit earlier that if you are an artist, you totally probably recognize some of these shapes as Matisse-inspired shapes, which is kind of what they are. But we also have included the SVG files. So if you have like a Cricut or a cutting machine of any kind, you can kind of cheat a little bit and use that to cut these pieces out. But in essence, the essence of this pattern is there's 2 different shapes. There's a smaller shape and a bigger shape. And for every one of the leaves of the mistletoe, you will need 2 of each. So you can choose to cut them out together, like 2 of these pieces with 2 fabric folded together, or you can cut them out one at a time. The only thing I would caution is that if you cut them out one at a time, just make sure your edges line up so that your mistletoe has nice clean shapes. But we're gonna get to cutting, and I'm gonna give you some tips on how I cut these. So fold. This was a little bit of scrap fabric that I had that I loved the color of. So here, I'm gonna cut this down a little bit actually. These are totally fabric scissors, and if you're a mom or a crafter that loves your scissors that are super sharp, I would currently be being yelled at by my mother that I was using crafting scissors on paper. So don't judge me. I know it's like a thing, and I know a lot of people don't like it, and I just did it. It's okay. I broke the rules. Okay, so I'm usually never pin anything, but I'm gonna pin this today because I want my sides and my shapes to be nice and flush. And if you are making this with kiddos, you absolutely do not have to make these double-sided or two pieces of fabric if you're feeling like that's too tricky. You don't have to. So again, interpret this pattern how you feel would suit your needs or the abilities of who's ever making it. Okay, so cut out these shapes. Super sharp scissors is your key to loving felt. And the reason I really, really love felt is because you don't have to finish the edges. I know I've said this like 37,000 times in my life, but I love it. Okay, so here's my tip with cutting these out. I'm gonna take my scissors and go up and then up, because if you try and take your scissors and kind of like move the thing and go all the way around, it's gonna just move your fabric around all weird. So I'm holding it flat, kind of flush with my left hand, and then I'm gonna go up and then come right over on this side and go up. So this is kind of a little tip or trick when you're cutting out intricate things. And then normally I never am a proponent of using the little top corner of your scissors or the top part of your scissors, but these little corners are gonna be where that comes in handy. So, ta-da! And then just continue all the way around.
Now, Emily, while you're cutting, can you talk about the actual kind of scissors? What brand, what kind of scissors are you using? You mentioned they were sharp, but can you talk a little bit more?
So these are a brand called LDH scissors, and I love them. They're a lot of the scissors I have. I know that there's tons of other awesome brands out there. I would say, to my comment earlier about the fact that I'm using my fabric scissors on paper, the reason why a lot of people don't want you to use fabric scissors on paper is because the paper can dull the scissors faster. So as long as they're nice and sharp, no matter what probably brand you use, that's the only thing that really matters. I love these LDH scissors. They actually have this like little container to put them in, so my kids can't get them. So that's what probably keeps them sharp around our house, is the fact that they don't get snatched by little fingers to be used for who knows what is being cut. So this is a pretty sort of satisfying thing to cut out, I think, because it's just a lot of organic lines and shapes. And honestly, if you don't follow it super closely, the benefit of cutting two at the same time is if it's wrong, they're both wrong. So you can just kind of roll with it. This is a little weird corner, so I'm gonna trim that up. But see, it's not perfect, but you're gonna get the idea. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, where I cut up and then cut up. So if you're ever encountering needing to cut something intricate, what I like to tell my kids too, my daughter is in kindergarten and she's kind of learning her cutting skills right now, is to kind of break it down. This sounds weird, but break it down into simpler shapes. Like these lines make it a lot easier than trying to navigate your scissors and move all the way around it. So give it a try. I promise it'll hopefully make it more, I don't know, precise is I guess maybe the point.
Now, Emily, we just had a comment drop in from Karen.
Yeah.
You are using the words cut up.
Yeah.
What do you think about the alternative to say cut in to the tight space on each side? Is a different way of looking at it? What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I guess actually that's probably a correct term because you're cutting into the shape. Mm-hmm. Yeah, more. That's a way to go. That's probably way more correct than what I was saying. All right. Some of these corners can get a little tricky, but I promise your shape will look better. And you'll want to, I used, I think 5 sets of these shapes in this mistletoe. So if you want to do 2, 3, 4, however many you want to do, I like to work in odd numbers just because I feel like it lays better, especially because this is like a circular thing. You don't want it to have necessarily like square sides, but you can use as many or as little of these mistletoe shapes And for that matter, if you have a giant doorway or a teeny tiny doorway in your house where you want this to go, when you're printing out your pattern, you know, when you're on like the printing interface, little, you know, your printing thing on your computer or on your phone or whatever, you can enlarge this pattern or shrink it depending on the size of the final mistletoe that you want. I feel like the ones we have are a pretty good size, but if you have a gigantic doorway, this might look teensy inside the doorway. So just maybe think about where you want to hang it too as you have your shapes. So voila. So then all we'll do is take our pins out, and you can look at your shape, and there is a few kind of weird, like this has a weird corner in the back. So you can just kind of trim it up. But looky there, and this guy's a little weird right here. I'll trim him up. But all you'll want to do is just make sure your lines are nice and similar to the front and the back. And then we're ready for our next step. So the great thing I love about projects like this too is you don't need 9,000 materials, which is really nice. A lot of this stuff to make this mistletoe can be probably found in your craft room or maybe your garage, because the next step, the cool thing about this mistletoe is that it is kind of a bendy shape or bendy leaves, so that you can bend this to make it look fluffy or make it look flat, or when you're storing it for Christmas or for the next holiday season, you can smush it and then just kind of refluff it up just like your Christmas tree is the idea. And again, if you don't want to add the wire and make it bendy, you don't have to. But the reason we did 2 different layers is because we're going to add some wire. So take one of your mistletoe pieces off, and then I just have, I think this is floral wire. I actually don't know. It's a really thin gauge wire. And all we're going to do is add some wire shaping to each one of the leaf sections. So what I like to do is cut a long one for the middle, and then cut these individual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little arms off of the mistletoe. So, and you'll want your hot glue gun ready. Now, of course, if you're working with kiddos, you want to maybe monitor that or do this part for them. And if you're using really thin wire, you can cut this with the scissors. You totally could cut this with the scissors, but I don't want to. So I'm going to use these, I don't know, wire. They're not wire cutters. They're pliers with a wire cutter on the inside. So all I will do is get a rough idea. It does not have to be perfect or precise. And then give it a quick cut. So this is the same. I'm going to show this one, and then you'll kind of see me do the same with all of them. And to get it to stay in place, all I'm going to do is put like the tiniest dab of hot glue in a few different places to get it to stay, and just hold it there for a few seconds, and then work your way down. And I'm trying to center it, you know, in the width or the branch, I guess you would call it, of the mistletoe. There, looky there. And then I will cut these little pieces. And again, if you're making this with kids, you can totally cut and have them glue, or they can cut and you can glue, depending on the age and the abilities of your kids. But I feel like when you give kids reign over some holiday projects every year, when they're going to pull this out of the bin, they're going to go, oh my word, I love it. Remember when we made that mistletoe? It's really cute. So I'm just cutting the approximate length of each one of these mistletoe pieces. And like this one's a little short, it's not going to touch the top. It doesn't super matter as long as you get the wire in there so that it can hold or be bendable, like the like your Christmas tree, so we can unbend it and rebend it and move it. It just makes it a little bit, give more movement to the actual, the finished piece. I remember my grandma had this horrible plastic mistletoe in her doorway that I was like thoroughly grossed out when my dad tried to kiss me every Christmas. He'd chase me down with the mistletoe and try to kiss me with it. So maybe this is my version of that.
Now, Emily, we do have a couple questions
Yeah.
here if you have a moment.
Yeah.
They're pretty much all felt related. So Donna is wondering where you can find good felt. And then Kathleen and Lori are wondering what specific type of felt you are using for this project, if it's polyester, wool, or wool blend.
That is
So
an
if you
awesome
can get
question. Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so this is 100% wool. Excuse me. No, this is a little bit of a blend. It's a poly blend. I would say, I think it's 80% wool. This one might be 70% wool, I'm not sure. The difference is, let me just give you a little lowdown on felt. The difference is if it's 100% wool, you know, like the really thick wool coats you can get at Christmas time, or like those wool, or that you wear in the holiday season, you know, they're a little bit fancier. Maybe you'd wear it to like the theater or something. And then those like really thick wool blankets, those are generally, not all the time, 100% wool. So they're really thick. They have less of like a tooth to it. They're a lot smoother and they're thick, usually. Not all the time, but usually. And then if you add, the more polyester you add to it, obviously the more polyester you're adding to it, but usually it's something like 80-20 or 70-30 or something. The stuff you buy in like a big box craft store is typically 100% polyester, typically, not all the time. And that's the stuff that feels really plasticky. This stuff, let me show you. This stuff has, you can see that there's like a, I don't know, like a heathered look to it. And this, I think, is 70-30, I think. I'm almost 100% positive. This green color, which is this one, you can even see how much more of like a solid color it is. This one is 80-20, I know, because it's thicker too. You probably can't see on camera, but it's a little bit thicker. So I don't know how flat wool is made. I wish, maybe that's something I can figure out. But I do know that it tends to be thicker because it's more of a raw product, if that makes sense. Maybe somebody can answer that for me, why? But from watching people do things with it, it's just a thicker product because it's more of its raw form. Because if you have ever gotten felt from a craft store, it's really plasticky, and you can, in theory, just like pull it apart. Like you could be able to pull this apart. Not this stuff, but if this was the polyester, you could pull it. This is not really losing its shape, which is why I love this felt. Of course, you can pull really hard and manipulate it a little bit, but I love this. I buy it from a small little, I think it's like a ma and pa is what I imagine what it seems like online. It's called Woolen Wovens, I believe. It's in Iowa. It's this little ma and pa shop. You can buy it online. They have amazing colors. Woolen Wovens. I'm 100% sure that's what it's called. Woolen Wovens. If you Google it, it's just this sweet little, I've talked to them on the phone, it's just a sweet little family that owns like a little store in Iowa. And they ship all over, and it's great stuff, and they're quick shipping, and they have great colors. And the swatches online, you can tell, the colors you're getting, whatever. But I love it. I feel like I've found really great stuff from there. That's where all of this stuff is from. And I have this other more minty option. So if you want to add in every color green you can find to make your mistletoe, the more the merrier. Or maybe you want to be really crazy and make a rainbow mistletoe. I don't know, but I feel like the sky is the limit, which is kind of fun for a project like this. Did that answer the wool question? If it didn't answer your wool question, make another comment, because I'm certainly happy to answer any other question you have.
We covered what we have so far, but if anything else drops in, I will let you know.
Awesome. Okay, so after you'll repeat these steps for every pair of your mistletoe that you have. So after you've completed, it'll look a little weird because there's little dots of glue and little pieces of wire, but after you've completed this is what it will look like. And then the next step is, all we're gonna do is lay this over top so that you get this sort of final, totally glued together, bendy shape, right? Okay, so how I do that is I will run a bead of glue. And the thing with hot glue is that it's tricky in some ways because you don't want to put too much glue down so that it's like squirting out everywhere, because it doesn't necessarily dry clear. It claims it does, but I feel like you can always see residue. but you want to make it, put enough down that it sticks. So I like to start with the top, glue the top down, and then kind of like do each little tendril or whatever you want to call it individually and kind of lay it down. So I'm just going to run a small bead of glue around each one of these and then lay it flat so that it's flush on each side and that you have your sort of, and you don't need to fill the whole space in. All I'm doing is going around the outside edge because it isn't super important that the whole thing is like smushed together. It's more important that the edges are together so that they don't pull apart so you see the inside wire pieces.
Now, Emily, Ellen is wondering if there is an alternative to using hot glue to attach the wire and piece this together.
Yeah, I like hot glue because it dries really quickly. But here's an alternative that I think, well, first of all, I do know that there's a lot of companies that have felt glue or fabric glue. That would totally work. Probably just the same as like any other sort of more absorbent glue. You just have to hold it in place a little bit more. So that's the reason I choose hot glue, is because it's quick. But if you don't want to, or if you're working with kids that you just don't want to deal with the burns and the heat and the things that hot glue can give you, here's what I thought about the other day, and I'm going to use this as an example. You totally could cut your pieces, right? Like cut your 2 pieces and even maybe make it a little bit bigger or only use these big pieces. And if you want to, and you're really into sewing, you totally could stitch right along these outside edges, which could be really pretty because you could use a gold thread or maybe a red thread or something. It could be a really cool kind of contrasting color. That would be a cool option. The other option, of course, is to not use the wire and not line them or not double side them, which is, of course, a totally great option. The one thing I would say is if you're going to do that, these are a little bit thicker, and because you can move them around and bend them, I would just cut more of these pieces so you still feel like you have, like a bundle that you can grab. But those, I feel like those are some pretty decent options that maybe can get your wheels spinning. Or maybe somebody else has a really good option that they want to mention.
Absolutely. I'll keep an eye for any of those comments. We do have a couple little suggestions that have dropped in to the chat box as well already. And then we're going to go in the opposite direction with the next question. So instead of avoiding the hot glue, Jen wants to know if you have a recommendation for a good hot glue gun, if you're going to go all in.
Yes. So I love these little guys. It has like a littler tip, so it's easy. I feel like it's easier to use. It's just a Xyron. I think it's their mini hot glue gun, I think. They just came out with, I don't think I have it with me, but they just came out with a glue gun pen, which, okay, I feel like it could change the world for crafters because it's like a, like a pen, like you hold it and you use your finger to push. And I think it's to make things more precise because, of course, when you're pushing with your trigger finger and this is a little bulkier than like what a pen would be. So that's something to look into. I have one. I don't think I have it with me, but it is a lot more precise. So that could be a really good option. These are the littler glue sticks. I know they have Gigondor ones with Gigondor glue guns, and I feel like I never can use those. Although when I'm making like a big Halloween project and you need to like really get the glue going, totally worth it. But I use the little one more than anything. I feel like it's just easier to control. I like it. Long answer to your question. Okay, I'm just gonna trim up a few of these bits really quick on the edges because now that it's totally glued together, I want my shapes to match each other pretty perfectly. So you don't have to do this step, but there's just a few little moments that I want to get rid of so that it's completely nice and smooth. There we go. Oh, this one side. There we go. So we have one done, and the cool thing is you can, look at that. You can just move it around. It's a little 3D little guy. I'm gonna do a couple more while we're kind of talking so that I can show you how to assemble them all together. I have a couple more started, and I can even give you some tips on how to do this little guy too. But Leah, you said you had another question, right?
Well, we have a couple comments.
Oh.
So first, we do have somebody, let me double check the name here, that has tried this with paper already. And
Yes.
looking forward to using the felt instead. Let me see where, I'm scrolling right on past this comment. Nancy tried it out. Said the paper wasn't as exciting as the felt. She's really looking forward to trying it in the felt. And then we have a couple people that like the hand stitching idea that you said, a little bit of thread. Now, Catherine has an idea. What about fusible web?
Oh my gosh, yes. That's a brilliant, that is a really good idea because, okay, so for those of you that don't know what fusible, that's a great idea. Fusible web is usually something that like probably quilters, sewers, garment sewers use, and often it's to strengthen, let's say, a collar in a shirt or like a lapel. It's like the thing that goes between two layers of fabric and acts as glue, but you can use an iron to kind of melt it together, and there's lots of different sizes or gauges is maybe the word. There's really thick stuff, there's really thin stuff. Some stuff has like a stabilizer in it, so it's a lot thicker, like stuff you'd see in like a lapel. But the reason this could be really cool, I like this idea, is because you could take each one of your shapes and in theory cut 3 things out, right? Like one shape, and then you'd cut a layer of fusible web for the inside. So then all you would do is you wouldn't even have to use wire, you could if you wanted to, is lay your wire, lay this on top, and then use an iron to press it together. Now you'd have to be maybe a little bit careful and test with any fabric that isn't 100% wool, because if it has some polyester in it, sometimes it can be melty or get like kind of gluey or gunky, so test that first. But that's an awesome idea, and that would be a good kid-friendly idea because A, you can teach them how to use the iron, but B, you totally could just press your iron on top of both of these shapes and it would melt right together. Brilliant idea. I did not think of that. I like that idea. Love it. Okay, I'm going to show you how to use this little one. This one's a little trickier, so I feel like I have a few tips, but look, we have, in that amount of time, we have 3 of these shapes already done. Okay, so this is of course the same concept, right, where we're gonna go down each side, but let me just tell you this. When I do this little one, I don't, or you don't have to, of course, again, start by going down the center of the trunk or branch or whatever we wanna call it. Give it a cut, right? So this step is the same. I'm not really blowing your mind right now. This part is the same. But I'm not necessarily going to go down all the other little tendril parts because this little guy doesn't probably need to be shaped as much as the other ones. So you can give yourself a break. And if you want to go down all of the sides of it, you absolutely can, but you don't, oh wait, this goes over here. Well, whatever. You don't have to. And one thing maybe I didn't mention is when I'm gluing this wire to the felt, I'm just gonna hold it in place for a few seconds so that it doesn't lift off the felt. I just curved that guy around because I cut it a little bit too long. So, but here with these little ones, because it can get really tricky to cut these little pieces, the most important part is just to do probably one down the stem so you at least can like, you know, move the sides of it or something. But if you want to, here, of course, you can cut, maybe let's just do one, just to kind of show you. So again, if you're like, I don't want to do these little pieces, don't do these little pieces. And in fact, you can even, like I said, in your printer option, blow the pattern piece up a little bit more if you're feeling like you don't want to deal with these little pieces. But let's just do one here. And again, it's not even touching the middle part, but it's still on here. And let that dry. So we have 1, 2, 3 little branchy parts, I guess, that we can move. So then I'll do the same. Run a bead of glue. I would say when you get to making this, start with the bigger piece first so you get an idea of kind of how to construct it, and then move on to the little pieces. just because then you'll maybe have like a little bit of a flow. So even though there's no wire, I'm still just gonna run the hot glue around the outside little, perimeter is the word I'm looking for, perimeter. There we go. And then just continue gluing it together like we did the other guy.
Now, Emily, I'm going to hit you with a suggestion that just dropped in
Ooh,
that I think
yes.
you'll love. So this is another alternative to glue. This comes from Pat. Pat does admit this might be more time consuming, but you string the wire through some clear or white, like snow crystals beads, and then tack the beads with the wire onto the outside, like they're the veins of the leaf. That might have sparkle.
Okay, that's actually a really cool idea, because then you don't have to use 2 layers and you would add that sparkle, which I feel like I'm not normally a glitter person. I know there's people that love glitter. It's not that I don't like it, I just don't tend to gravitate towards it, except at Christmas time. There's something about things glistening in like the early evening light, with like your Christmas trees on or your outdoor lights or whatever, and then it just glistens. So the more like beads or glittery things you can add to Christmas, I'm all in for. So I love that idea. But I mean, heck, you could pop in a holiday movie, beat up a mistletoe, and voila. That sounds great to me. So yes, more time consuming, but I feel like the wow factor would be really big. Okay, see? Ta-da, another leaf. So still bendy, but not every single shape, or every single tendril, and that's okay. All right. So, oh wait, hang on. I'm going to trim this little tiny piece up quick. The more precise you cut, the less probably trimming you will have to do. This one you can tell I got a little thin right there, but not every branch is the same. So I do have one more. I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to show you quickly how to assemble these. And I know I said 5, but I'm just going to show you how to assemble it really quickly, or I said an even number. And I like the 2-tone greens. You, of course, can just use one color if you want to, but I like the 2-tone. And the idea that I used is that they're just kind of wrapped in a bundle, like a bundle of herbs or something, because it can just hang really nicely. So I just have some cotton thread. I'm just going to cut off more than you need, because you will maybe you don't know where you're going to hang it, and so you can always trim more off, but don't leave yourself too little, because that would be a giant bummer if you finish this and then it's like a little string to hang it from. So what I did, just grab by the here, let's just do these 3 for right now. There we go. So you're going to just grab it by the top right here, and then leave yourself a little bit of a tail. And all I'm going to do is hold my tail and I'm going to wrap like a chunk like this. Probably, I don't know, oops, I didn't leave myself a big enough tail. I'm going to leave myself a bigger tail. I'm going to follow my own instructions and say, leave yourself more. And wrap, like you're kind of layering the wrapping. And then I'm going to use a little dab, like the smallest dab of hot glue, to bring this up and then wrap it down again. So it's just kind of a nice, there we go. And the reason I want this up is because of course you can tie this however the heck you want. This is just how I'm choosing to tie it. I want my string to hang it up like this, and I'm going to tie these 2 strings together. So that's why I wanted this string up. I'm just covering it up again. I know this probably feels a lot more complicated than it needs to be, and perhaps it is, but this is what I almost cut my string. I don't want to, but I'm just going to tie this in a knot. And I feel like this just gives it a little bundle look, which I really wanted to try to do when I was making this. Hello, here we go. So just give it a nice tie. and then your string this big string will end up here, so it can kind of, hang from the top. And you can cut this off if you want to, or you can leave it. I'll cut it a little bit, but I don't mind that it's hanging down. There we go. So it's a nice little knot, and it just is kind of wrapped around, and then it leaves this hanging from the top, so you can hang it from your doorway or over your kid's head or your partner's head or whatever. It's fun. Okay, so the last option. So I don't feel like I really know a lot about mistletoe, and maybe I should have done more research. When I was looking at pictures trying to figure out, like, how can I make a mistletoe, a lot of them had these white berries on them, and this is totally optional. So you can leave your mistletoe in its raw form just like this, or we have some berries, and you can do red or white, of course, if you're feeling like, or glittery. I mean, this is another option to add some glitter. So all I'm gonna do is hot glue a few of these little white pom-poms. These are like medium size and super small size. And honestly, if you're really feeling crafty, you can make your own little tiny pom-poms, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't have a small enough pom-pom maker that would not take away from the mistletoe. And so all I'm going to do is glue a few, and you can kind of go, okay, I want another one over here. Just glue a few on there. Ta-da, look at this. So this really is like one of those little happy no-sew kind of projects. And then the good thing about this wire is you can kind of bend your mistletoe in any shape. You can make it fan out. You can, I don't know, and if you want to, you can kind of tack a few leaves together to make it hold its shape or form. I find that the wire inside of these tendril little things works really well. I'm gonna put another one down here. There's glue gun strings everywhere because that's what happens when you use glue. And then I'll flip it over here on this side and maybe I'll add one right here. So embellish as you want. I mean, heck, you could add a giant bow at the top. You could make different, you could layer these on top of each other and create like a super huge one, or you could put tons of them together and make it really wide. The idea of a project like this is that you can make it as big or as little or as custom or as not as you want to make it, and maybe you want to add a little tag that is for the newlyweds. I don't know. Something to make it special or personal, because I feel like all what holiday crafting is about is making it about your family or the person you're giving it for or your neighbor or your mom or the person you love. So customize it, embellish it, do whatever you want to make it how you want your mistletoe to look. Do we have any questions that have come in, Leah, or comments?
We have a suggestion for red ribbon. Could be fun.
Yeah.
And then Joy says that berries are necessary for the charm vibe to work. So anybody that was wondering how optional they are, keep that in mind. And then we did have a question that came in. This is also from Joy. I believe it's the same Joy, but maybe there are two Joys out there. So Joy is sorting out Christmas decor and tossing out the ones that she doesn't use, but memories are attached to all of them.
Yes.
And I was wondering if, Emily, you could speak to this, but also maybe some of you could get in the comments about this. What do we do with some of these Christmas decorations, holiday decorations that have such nostalgia tied to them, but maybe they don't make it out on display any longer? Do you have ideas? Anybody out there watching?
That's a super good question, because I feel like that is sort of endless a little bit. Like, right, my mom was a huge crafter and quilter when I was growing up, and she's no longer here, so I have all these nostalgic pieces, right, as from my childhood or that came from my house or that she made for me or something, and they're not necessarily my style, or I'm not sure what the meaning is behind it, but I remember it as a kid, right? So actually I feel like I've had the same problem. So there was this table runner that my mom made that was on our table every Christmas, and my husband was like, okay, it's lovely, but I have no attachment to it. And it wasn't necessarily anything that fit our table or that we use, just because we have little kids and we're constantly crafting at the table, and I'm like, there's gonna be glitter and glue all over this thing, so I'm not gonna put it on our table. But what I did do, and this felt really terrible at the time, but I love the way it turned out, is actually cut it apart and made them into ornaments because it was a way that I could kind of keep it in a smaller way. So it was this fabric it was the fabric, of course, that brought the nostalgia back, right? So that it was like these squares, and then they had these like, I'm sure a quilter could tell me exactly what the squares were, but I don't know. They had like these triangle pieces, and then they had like these other triangle pieces on the other triangle sides. So I took the smaller triangle piece and I put 2 of those together just to make like a square ornament. So I feel like trying to repurpose things is a good idea, especially if you're like, I want to keep it, but I don't want to use this exact thing, or I don't have a place for it, like a mantle for a Christmas village or something. I mean, you know, those little moments where you maybe remember it, or somebody made it for you or bought it and it no longer fits. So maybe try and reimagine what it can be used for. And I feel like ornaments are kind of an easy go-to because you need a lot of them on your tree, and they're fun to take out of the box every year, and they're smaller. So they're not like a, you know, Christmas village or a quilt or a table runner, you know, like those bigger things that sometimes feel tricky to find a place for. Maybe that'll answer your question, or maybe get your ideas turning, perhaps.
We also have a couple, we've got a couple that have just dropped in too. Melissa says a shadow box for
Oh, yeah.
could work. And Catherine suggests taking a photo or a stack of photos of the meaningful items and either have a special Christmas album that you put together, or you could make it into a slideshow. I'm thinking about those digital photo frames. Maybe that could be a way to display them in the holidays.
Right.
If you're maybe losing a little bit of their life and, you know, like you mentioned, they're not really getting displayed anymore.
Yeah. And of course, like, going back to that ornament idea, using photos, you easily could turn a photo of anything into an ornament too, or like, you know, the digital photo display, that's like so easy to have rolling and kind of a fun thing to change out for the holidays too, because the fun of decorating, at least in our house, is that we kind of like push everything else aside and a lot of new stuff comes out. So it feels fun to change up, if it's something even as simple as changing up photos in like a digital slideshow thing. That's also another fun decorating thing. I love that. Anything to add more and to make you feel special and cozy and warm and full of family this time of the year. I'm all about it.
All right. I am going to give you the floor again in just a moment, Emily, but a quick reminder for anyone, especially if you didn't join us at the very beginning, if you haven't already had a chance to download the pattern for what Emily has just shown us and we're finishing up shortly here, make sure that you go either to the link in the description, or if you're in the chat box already, our fantastic team behind the scenes has dropped the link to the download. So that's a free download that you can have. You'll just click on that link, go there, select the photo for the pattern, and you'll get this pattern. It's fantastic. I can see a lot of you are trying this already, and Emily is just finishing up. I think we've got a few more finishing touches to talk about. So Emily, go ahead and take us home.
So like I said, the thing that I love the most about holiday crafting is making it yours and making it customized for your family or the person you're gifting it to. So take complete freedom, although I do feel like I 100% recommend what I don't remember who said in the comments, that these pom-poms or these berries are added value for the cute or the charm factor. I'm all about that. But please feel free when you're making this craft or any other craft this holiday season. Of course, you can stack these together, stack them next to each other, make it bigger, make it smaller, add a tag with your name, add a giant bow, make it full of glitter, make it pink and purple sparkly. Whatever you feel like you want to do to make it yours is exactly how it should be. So when we're hanging our mistletoe up in our house, we have it hung over a doorway, but I have found, this sounds really cheesy, but just, we all have bad days and stress over the holidays. So we hang it, oh boy, I'm getting stuck here. We hang it with like a little loop on the end, right? So it's going on to the little nail, but then I can easily grab it down, because the other day my daughter was just having a terrible day, and she's a kindergartner, and there was like 700 things wrong with her stuffies and things in her life, and she was like, this is so hard. So I took down the mistletoe and I chased her around the house trying to kiss her, and it was like the funniest little, you know, like cheesy little moment, but she was all into it. It changed both of our moods. It changed the tone of our house. So put it in a spot where you can, this is my tip, put it in a spot where you can grab it and you can easily just use it as a little prop this holiday season to give the person you love or people that need a little cheering a holiday smooch on the cheek or on the lips. So have fun making your mistletoes. I'm excited to see what people make and see what materials you use and how you customize it.
Okay, well, I'm going to give a little last call for any final questions since we've kind of closed up with today's project. And while I keep an eye on the chat box, Emily, I would love for you to let us know what you're up to, what you're excited about in the future, and most importantly, where can we find you so we can keep updated on all of the fun crafts that you have coming up?
Awesome. So I have a brand online called Oh Yay Studio, OHYAY. So you can find me on all social channels or online, Oh Yay Studio. And if you make these, tag me because I'd love to see, tag Craftsy and tag me because I'd love to see these and love to see what you make for a final product. And I am a person that, like I said in the beginning, I love felt. I love making these out of felt because it's colorful and it's fast and it's easy and it's really tactile. And I'm all about color. if you know anything about me or follow me on any platform, I'm all about color and I love making things. I love being creative in general. So I'm doing a lot of painting right now and that's really fun. I just actually was joking with my husband that I'm like, we should paint the walls for Christmas and then paint them again after that. And he was like, no, we're not doing this. So I feel like I'm the person who wants to encourage you to bring creativity into your home in any fashion, whether it's through a little craft like this or painting your walls or maybe just doodling while you're watching some Netflix or something at night. That is what I'm all about, is just bringing creativity to life inside of your day and however that looks for you. And I feel like we're ending the year and kicking off the new year, so who knows what kind of adventures or things I'll be making in the new year. But if you have a suggestion, let me know. I love to try new things. I'm all about it.
Well, I have to say our team dropped a link to Oh Yay Studio, so that's in the chat box as well. And I do have to say, like Emily was saying, she's been painting a lot. That comes with a little bit of a warning. I follow her, and you will feel like you need to paint your walls.
Yes.
It will happen. So it comes with a warning. That said, there haven't been any last minute questions that have come in, but I would encourage anybody to just scroll through the chat box. There are a couple little comments, fun features about how people are tweaking this to their own style. So definitely check that out. You can come back and watch this anytime after we close up for today. But like Emily said, we do want to see you share your version of this project or any of the projects from this week, and you can tag her or and use the hashtag #ShareCraftsy. So tag Emily, tag Craftsy, but also use the hashtag #ShareCraftsy. And that will be a way for us to all see what the community is putting together and how you're personalizing all of these projects. Now, we are back again tomorrow with another project, and that will be with Sue O'Very Pruitt of Suki Sews. It starts at 2 p.m. Central Time. And we're going to continue this Cozy Craft Along mini series with a live demo on how to make Santa Belly mug rug. So you can download your free pattern right now using the link in the description, so you'll be ready to go for tomorrow's event. You can find the entire mini series schedule in the video description as well, so you know when to catch us next. So that's all for today, but I'm so excited for you to join us for another one this week. So until we see you the next time, happy crafting.